Welcome back friends to another session of finite element methods for fluid dynamics. So, we have been looking at the unsteady problems and we propose one such method, which is the generalized trapezoidal method. Today we are going to look at the convergence properties of this method. So, let us first understand what is meant by convergence. So, as you know, we have a system that we are trying to model and then we are trying to seek a numerical solution to it. What we would like is that as the time step reduces and we go to a very small value of the time step, we should approach the exact solution. So, let me try to show it pictorially. Perhaps this is my time and I am looking at, let us say, the solution at a given point at some location x. And with time, suppose this is my exact solution. So, I am going to call this as d of t. And let us say I am interested in the numerical solution. So, I break this into time steps. So, these are my discrete time levels. So, I am solving for delta t, 2 delta t, and perhaps this level is n delta t, this is n plus 1 delta t, and so on. What I would like is that if I fix my time level, let us say this is time level t n. This is my exact solution and perhaps I would get some solution which is my discrete solution. So, I only have solution at these time steps. So, let me call this value as d at n. So, this is my numerical solution and this is my exact solution. So, I could talk of an error at level n, which is my d at n minus d at t n. So, this is the numerical solution and this is my exact. What ideally I would like is that as delta t goes to 0, okay, so I start taking a smaller time step and do the integration. So, suppose I focus on a solution at time level t n, I would take more time steps to reach this point if I was to take a smaller size of the time step, right. So, I would be spending a lot more. So, the hope is that as my delta t tends to 0, my error also tends to 0, okay. And if this happens, then that is called convergence, and I would like this to happen at all time levels. So, if I fix a time level, let us say I fix 3 delta t, this is the time level, and then I take smaller and smaller time steps, then of course 3 delta t would not remain 3 delta t, I would reach there in more number of time steps. So, I can only fix a given time, then this error should reduce and this should happen at all values of t. That is what I would call convergence, and that is really a happy situation. But we are not guaranteed this, okay. So, we would like to investigate that under what conditions do we get convergence. So, there are two more concepts which are actually useful in looking at convergence, and they are stability and consistency. So, the idea of the stability is the following. If I have a certain error between the exact solution and my numerical solution at a certain time, what happens to this error with time? Does it grow or does it decay or it remains the same? So, that aspect is stability. So, how does error En grow with time. That is stability. Consistency is what is the error at a given time. So, a consistent algorithm would be that if I keep reducing my time step, then this error must diminish as I reduce the time step and eventually it goes to 0. Okay. So, if I have, so this consistency is somehow related to accuracy. So, there is a theorem by Lax which says that if I have an algorithm which is stable and it is consistent, then I can have a convergent algorithm, at least in certain cases. So, we are going to look at some very simple algorithms, and for those it is sufficient that at least in linear problems a stable and a consistent algorithm would ensure stability, would ensure convergence. So, we are going to look at some of these ideas. So, I will just write it down for you, that stability plus consistency implies convergence. Okay. And this we will show for our generalized trapezoidal scheme also, but before we do that, we will look at the concept of stability and we will look at the concept of consistency, and then perhaps we will be able to see how the two of them put together lead to a convergent algorithm. So, the first concept therefore is stability. So, let me illustrate that. To illustrate stability to you, I am going to take a single degree of freedom problem. So, I will take a homogeneous single degree of freedom problem. Which I will call SDOF, and the problem is the following. So, we will say D dot plus lambda h d is 0 and d at 0 is d0. So, you can think of this as some kind of an eigenvalue eigenvector problem where lambda h is an eigenvalue. So, we could have a multi-degree of freedom problem and we have found the eigenvalues and eigenvectors and decoupled it, and this is just one of the degrees of freedom, okay, and along with an initial condition. Okay, so what happens to the exact solution? It is a very simple equation, and the exact solution would look something like this, that d of t is d0 times e to the minus lambda t, right. So, you can check that indeed at t equal to 0 I satisfy the initial condition. Now, let me take a situation where we would be interested in the numerics. So, let me therefore talk about a time level n, which of course is n delta t. So, I would reach at this time level in n time steps, each one of them equal to delta t. So, equal time stepping. Similarly, t n plus 1 I would like to write down as n plus 1 delta t. So, it is easy then to write d t n plus 1, this is the exact solution. So, although I am computing at discrete time steps, but this is still the exact solution. So, this is d0 e raised to the minus lambda. So, actually I should put the superscript h, and for t I am going to put n plus 1 delta t, and similarly the solution at time level n is going to be given as d naught e raised to minus lambda h n delta t. And I can actually combine these two equations and I would get the following, that d at t n plus 1 is simply given as e raised to the minus lambda delta t. So, this I can call as A, which is the amplification factor. In other words, if I knew the solution at time level n, then the solution at time level n plus 1 is simply this factor A times the solution that I know. So, that is why we call it as the amplification factor. Pictorially, this is what is happening. So, this is time, and let us plot this is d. At t equal to 0, my solution is d0. For values of lambda greater than 0, I am perhaps going to see a situation like this. So, this is lambda positive. If I take values of lambda that are negative, then of course this solution would eventually blow up, that you can see from here as well. Okay, so, for negative values of lambda, there would be an exponential growth. So, perhaps we are looking at a situation like this. This is lambda less than 0, and if lambda is 0, then of course we have neutrally stable. So, let me write that down for you. This is stable, this is unstable, and this is neutrally stable. So, please note, so far I have not talked about the numerics at all. This is just the exact system. So, we considered a single degree of freedom system where it is governed by the simple ordinary differential equation. Okay? And what is being said is that analytically the system behaves like this. It is stable for positive values of, actually these are lambda h. So, let me just put down this superscript h here. So, lambda h is just the h, superscript h denotes that we are looking at discrete values of lambdas, not the exact values. All right. So, this is a stable system, this is an unstable system, and this is neutrally stable. The point that we would like to make is that if I was to now simulate this numerically, I must get exactly the same behavior from the numerical system as I get from the exact system. So, if my system is stable analytically, my numerical method should also predict stability. On the other hand, if I have an unstable system, so it is almost like maybe a nuclear reactor. If there is an explosion and if you are modeling it, then you better get you do a simulation where it is in fact unstable. So, you must simulate the reality. Okay. So, we would like to have, so I am just writing it down for you. A numerical method that simulates the stability of the exact system. You know, the point that I want to make here is that very often we are somehow made to believe that a numerical algorithm must be stable. Not true. If my physical system is unstable and I come up with a numerical algorithm that will always predict stable solutions, that is no good. Okay. So, if the original system is unstable, your algorithm must predict instability. If your original system is stable, then your numerical algorithm must predict stability, and so on. there is an issue of accuracy that we are going to address separately. So, we are first looking at the issue of stability, and then whether with time we are able to actually track exactly the same growth is yet another question. That is the concept of accuracy, but right now we are only worried about stability. What about this amplification factor? So, it is easy to see that this would be 1. If I have a neutrally stable method, then I get an amplification factor of 1. On the other hand, if I am stable, then my amplification factor is strictly less than 1, and if I am unstable, then my amplification factor is actually greater than 1. So, this is something that I can look at, that if I find the amplification factor of my numerical scheme, then for lambda h less than 0, this is how I would like it to behave, and if lambda h is positive, that means I am dealing with a stable system, then indeed the amplification factor should be less than 1. So, let us now take the single degree of freedom system, the one given over here, and let us apply the generalized trapezoidal method to it and see what kind of stability do we predict. So, just for convenience, let me number these equations as 1 and 2. So, we are now going to use the generalized trapezoidal rule. So, let us do it on equation 1. So, the first term d dot, I am going to write it as d n plus 1 minus dn by delta t. Lambda h is given to me, that is the eigenvalue. So, that stays as is, and this d I am now going to evaluate it at n plus alpha. So, this I am going to write at d n plus alpha equal to 0, and of course, subject to the initial condition that d0 is d0. So, this is now my numerical method. And what is dn plus alpha? I will expand it as dn plus 1 times alpha plus 1 minus alpha times dn. Okay. So, I can collect the terms of n plus 1 together, and that would give me dn plus 1 times 1 plus alpha lambda h delta t. So, that is dn plus 1, and I will take the terms for dn on the right hand side, and these would be 1 minus, I would get here a 1 minus alpha lambda h delta t. Okay. So, I can now work out what is dn plus 1 by dn, which is actually my amplification factor, and this you can see is going to be simply 1 minus alpha lambda h delta t divided by 1 plus alpha lambda h delta t. Let me call this as equation number 3. Good. So, now I have a definition of an amplification factor from my numerical algorithm, and I can compare it to what do I get it from the exact solution. Okay. And the hope is that they behave similar to each other. So, let us first check what happens to, so case 1. I would like to see what happens when lambda h is less than 0. So, lambda h is less than 0 would imply that this numerator would be greater than 1, isn't it? Lambda h is less than 0, so 1 minus alpha is positive, so this would become greater than 1 and denominator would become less than 1. So this would imply that A is strictly greater than 1. So that's good. So that means my original system was unstable and my numerical system also predicts an instability. Okay, so that's nice. We are not saying what is the value of A, because that's related to accuracy. Okay, so it's possible that the growth rates are different. So although both the numerical and the physical system are predicting an instability, it is possible that actually the growth rate is different for the two systems, but that's actually the aspect of accuracy. We will address that as well. Let us look at case 2, where lambda h is 0. The physical system requires that we should have a neutrally stable growth. So the value should remain exactly the same for all times. Let us see what equation 3 predicts. So I put lambda h equal to 0, and sure enough this implies A is equal to 1. So the first one was unstable and this one is neutrally stable. So this has also passed the test. The case 3 is really the important one, where lambda h is positive, strictly positive, and the physical system is stable. And we want to investigate what happens to the numerical system. So we would like because our physical system and numerical system should behave the same way, so we would like our amplification to actually be less than 1, because the physical system has an amplification less than 1. So we want to make sure that our algorithm also works in this domain. What that does is, it actually will put possibly some constraints on the combination of alpha, delta t and lambda h, and we want to investigate that. I can give you the answer right away. What we are going to find out is that for some values of alpha, this will hold. Amplification factor will always be less than 1. But for certain values of alpha, what we will find is that there will be a restriction on the time step. If we take too large a time step beyond a certain critical value, we would get an unstable algorithm. So we are going to look at the detailed analysis just in a moment, but I thought I'll give you a preview of the answer.